Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to an episode of Outside the Panels. I'm your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and as you know, along with a whole range of indie books, I love a good Kickstarter. And I know I've said this before, but trust me this time, I have got an absolute belter for you to look at today. I am talking with the legendary writer, animator, critically acclaimed Stephan Franck. Stephan, how's it going?
It's going great, Johnny. Great. Thanks for having me.
You are more than welcome, sir. More than welcome. I'm going through a list of superlatives. Acclaimed cartoonist, award-nominated animator, writer, director of things like Despicable Me, How to Train Your Dragon, Marvel Studios you've worked with. But the big question for me is, why did you make me cry at the Iron Giant? Man, every single time.
I cried too. too. Yeah, I still do. It's yeah.
So if you haven't seen the Iron Giant, which is based loosely on the Ted Hughes book, no relation, there is a scene in fact there's several scenes, but there is one particular scene, right, and it just screams emotion.
Yeah,
it screams choice, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And if you haven't watched it, if you haven't shed a tear at it, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Go and dig it out. Yeah, I'm sure it's on a stream somewhere. Go and check it out. Watch it. Not now. Watch the rest of this first. And then if you don't cry at the end, you haven't got a soul. Simple as. Anyway, enough about that. We're here to talk about your Kickstarter Palomino. I'm not sure how up to date you are. My wife and I looked at this yesterday, primarily because we were just doing the research and I was doing the research on it. Do you know where you are on your Kickstarter?
I think we just got to our original funding goal this morning.
And you are absolutely correct, sir. Well done.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's there it is. Oh, you have it in pounds too. That's awesome.
So you were asking for $15,000. You got 15,547. That's a massive 231 backers, and you've still got over a fortnight to go.
Yeah.
How pleased are you with that sort of response?
I'm really pleased because these times are weird. The economy is weird. Everything's weird. There's not a day that happens that there's not something insane happening in the world.
True that.
And so it's very difficult just to be able to command anybody's attention in this context, and not to mention some of the stuff that's in the world is also very sort of not fun, and so just having people looking for meaningful entertainment and stuff and finding us, and every campaign we've ever done, we're always funded, but these days you can't take anything for granted. So I'm just super, super thankful to the readers who came back for the new volumes, the new people who just found it and just are embracing it. It's great,
Cool, excellent. What a great way. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of the book, you have a nice little trailer on your Kickstarter. So what we're going to do, if that's all right, we're going to play the video and see what happens. Yeah, let's go for it. Eh? Wow. First off, wow.
Thank you so much.
Honestly, this is like the third or fourth time I'm saying that, and every time I'm like that. Fantastic. The music, let me ask you about the music, because obviously musician and a PI, so the music from the trailer is massively important, setting that tone. Where's the music from? Don't tell me that's you as well.
No, so like the it's it's just royalty free music that you buy for these pieces, so you can use it and stuff like that. But it was missing this little bit at the beginning, so I just took my iPhone and I played a little bit of acoustic guitar, like that little intro. I just played it at the bridge, so I just added that to it. But everything else, it's just one of those art list
Cool.
by music,
Yeah. Whoever he is or they are deserves some recognition. That was a really nice piece
It
of
is
music.
great. Yeah,
Absolutely. Fits the mood of the book. Fantastic.
Yeah,
So for those that don't know who Palomino, what it is, what's it about, straight from the horse's mouth, as it were, what's the story behind this book, Stephan?
Well, so we're in 1981, and we're in Los Angeles, and we're in the real but forgotten world of the country music clubs of Los Angeles, right? So, and the Palomino used to be an actual real place in LA. Cool. It was a legendary place where, it was just, anybody could get up on stage. You'd never, you'd find John Belushi and Jerry Lee Lewis getting drunk together at the bar, where like a Beatle might just pop up on stage, and it was a place that was at the crossroads of the movie world in the valley, in the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles, and the music world and the power structure of the place. Like Governor Jerry Brown, who was dating Linda Ronstadt in those days, could be found there without his Secret Service, and just everything like California kind of intermingled there. So musically it was amazing because it was at the crossroads of many traditions. But then it was like the town kind of congregated there. And just to give you, the owner's dad had a Model T Ford, right, that was parked in front at all times, and that was riddled with bullets that were left in there by cops chasing him during the Prohibition era.
Wow.
So it's that place is the stuff of legends. You see it in movies like Every Which Way But Loose, or Hooper, or stuff like that. But so this is the locale, but the piece is a horror 80 kind of gritty LA Noir type story. And as much as we've seen classic LA Noir, we've never seen it connected with this very real part of LA history and culture. So that's the setup. So we have this guy. He's a former cop. He's a musician. Had to leave the force in disgrace. Now he's musician by night at the Palomino, plays the pedal steel guitar, and during the day he's a PI. And he's involved into those noir mysteries, right? And then he's got this daughter, Lizette, who's 16. And she is this kind of old soul of a teenager, and the two of them have this wit about them that they're kind of hilarious together. Good. But she's even more hard-boiled than he is, Right. So the two of them together and their lives, and there's this big mystery that's kind of large over their lives, and then a new case comes and kind of reopen all those wounds and stuff like that. So it's your classic neo-noir Los Angeles crime mystery, very grimy, very but in a way that you've never seen before because of the setup. And it's also very slice of life with the daughter and all that stuff. And so I like to, it's like To Live and Die in LA, or like Heat or whatever, meets like an Altman movie.
All right, fair enough.
And just to, like, the last piece of it is that for me, from my books, it's one of the more sort of lived in books that I've done, in the sense that I have been a musician. I've played clubs like that since the time that I was teenager until a few years ago. A lot of the old musicians of the Palomino, again, a real place, are my friends, and I worked with them in other situations in the years after the PAL. And so that's a world that I know really well, and I really wanted to capture. And then, of course, there's the living in LA, which is also its own thing, and that I also wanted to capture and kind of like the fabric of that. And then you have the father-daughter. That's also a big
dynamic. Yeah,
which
cool.
is,
There's a lot going on.
yeah.
You know, there is a lot. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen music and private detective go together. I mean, I've seen it like stuff like The Fall Guy from the 80s, which was a stuntman and a bounty hunter, but never music. When you say it out loud, a guitar playing private detective, you think, nah, that's not going to work. And then you look at the book and you're like, man, it absolutely, I think the word is atmospheric from day one, isn't it? You know, it's absolutely has that denseness to it. When it comes to, so you've got the Palomino, which is a real place. You've got the noir style storytelling. You mentioned a couple of things from movies there. What other inspirations came from this? I mean, I'm looking at the art.
Right.
I've got a little bit going on here. This is from Volume 1 that you were kind enough to send. I've got to say, you're the writer artist on this, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's all you.
It's all me. It's all me. So it's funny because like when you do Noir, a lot of people will go straight to the landmarks, to your Hollywood sign, your this, your that, right? And it becomes very touristy and very, but having lived here for like 30 years now, and having raised the family here and so on and so forth, I was really trying to capture the real history of the place and the real, and so the places, like for instance, there's this place called Sunland, which is in the story is featured as, oh, you don't want to go to a meeting there, especially if you're involved in some sort of crime situation, because Sunland was really, especially the place that's depicted on the in the book. Sunland used to be a place where they were known to dump bodies in there. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
so anyone outside LA may not know what Sunland is, but that or Silmar, for instance, right where he lives with his daughter. That's a suburb of LA where working musicians used to live a lot. There was a lot of them live there in Tujunga and in those areas, and so. The point is that if as a reader, even if you don't know the specifics, if you know truth when you see it, that it brings like a reality and a groundedness to the piece that just feels authentic, and
totally. I mean, I'm, as you can tell by my accent, I'm nowhere near LA. I'm slap bang in the north of England, so the idea of me going down a freeway and bumping into the Hollywood sign is, but you're absolutely right. I totally get where you're coming from. Those landmarks you see in everything. Every movie has a Hollywood sign or whatever, So you're taking us through a tour through the underbelly a little bit of the places not seen, the road less traveled to some extent.
Yeah,
and I think that's what for me gives its book its originality, because I'm used to seeing LA a certain way. This is totally different to me.
Yeah,
so this gives it that
element.
fresh. Yeah, exactly. It gives me that whole fresh look. So very well done on that.
Thank you so much.
Which
I'm just gonna say, sorry to interrupt. Just so you know, something extremely LA is about to happen, which is that I'm hearing the guys with the leaf blowers that do all the yards and stuff in LA are about to come by. So if it might.
It's fine. It's what we're doing in real life, so that's fine.
So
that's cool.
That's a very LA thing.
What was I going to say? So you've got all these creative tools to your bow, writer, director, animator, artist, musician. How, when it comes to doing a project like this, how do you manage to kind of separate one from the other to get to where you need to be? Do you find one process easier? Do you find one process harder?
I think for me it all starts the same way, right? Which is the writing. And so, the writing comes really in two parts, which is that the high concept. Like if I'm saying I'm going to do an Noir thing, at the Palomino in 1981, that's kind of a high concept that I've had for years, in my head. I have ideas like that, but they don't really go anywhere until like I find, okay, but what is it really about? Oh, it's a father-daughter story, right? So whatever the project is, it needs those two elements, like the big fun, the circus of it, and the more like the black box theater of it, to kind of come together. And so once I have that done, it's writing. And when I write always the same, which is in screenplay form, because when I write, I can't. I'm not in visual. I'm just writing the play, if you will. So in other words, like some comic book writers are very able to do, write panel 1 from the left. I can't do that. The minute I touch that, like the quantum wave collapses, and it's just like I'm not in anymore. I'm not able to write that way. So I just write it as a screenplay, because that's the format where I can abstract myself from the format itself, because I know it well, and I'm just completely in the story. And then when that's done, then I start laying out the book. And so laying out the book, that's where there's a lot of overlap with animation and stuff, because it's, in a way, it's like storyboarding, but so like the sequential of it, if you will, that's something that is probably the most natural part for me to do, because it's really my training, but the thing that I'm trying to do, and this is where it's different, I'm trying to bring a sense of cinematic sense to the page, in the sense that it's immersive, and in a sense it's never confusing and stuff like that. But which does not mean that every panel looks like like a movie screen, right? In fact, in a movie, you constantly break up the aspect ratio by throwing things through doors, blocking part of the screen. So you are, in fact, deconstructing the aspect ratio constantly. So in the comic, it's already pre-deconstructed for you, or that tool is there with the shape of the panels that you can do. But so there's that. But but then I'm trying to bring that eye for the cut onto the page, meaning that each panel cut visually into the next one in the same way that shots cut together in a movie. Meaning two things that are confusing, or they are too similar that you're not sure what's happening. You mean, like, so that there's a clarity in the page that is, because movies are very clear, right? And also by now everybody's seen a million movies, and so everybody understands film language. It's everybody's second language. Like often on the plane, I watch movies without the sound, and you can still understand everything that's going on here, because the language is so clear. So what I'm trying to do is do real comic book pages that are unique, because that's the other thing I like about comic book pages, is when they're unique. They don't feel like a pile of storyboards that there's like everyone is a bell that or like something you can't unsee once you've seen it. But
point in question, look at that. That is just gorgeous. If that was a print, I would stick that on the wall and just leave that there.
That's awesome.
That is gorgeous. I love how the textures of the color are changing throughout the purple of the stage, because the lights are having an impact. I like the lens, the pseudo lens flash of the circles there. Really well observed. You've got the shadows going on, because obviously the light source is in front of the actors and so the musicians. The crowd's a little blurred out, because from their perspective you can't really see them, because the lights are in your eyes.
Exactly.
This is a well crafted piece of art that absolutely screams what it is.
And what I'm trying to do is recreate those very cinematic intentions that we're talking about and translate it in a graphic medium. That really lives on the page in a way that's graphic and really beautiful.
So I'm taking these from the volume that you sent across, or you sent across volume 1. So this is already out in the domain, so no real spoilers in this one. Here's another. I mean, look at that. Just look at that. It is like I'm stood on the sidewalk looking at the place. That is very well done. Very, very well done. Do you feel art-wise, because you've worked on so many different projects, your style changes? So, for example, you've worked on Despicable Me. That's different to The Iron Giant, which is different to What Ifs and all that sort of stuff. I mean this as a compliment. Looking through your book, there's very much a Tim Sale feel to it. Was that intentional, or?
Well, I'll tell you. Yeah, no, it's Tim Sale was a friend and somebody I really, really loved, and whose art was just absolutely phenomenal. It's funny, like when you as I'm sure you do, there's some comics that we've read our entire lives, like, and we reread them over and over and over. Yeah. But the thing is that for me, because I feel like I'm still learning, I've been doing this for a long time, but I'm still, every day I'm learning, I'm getting a little bit better, and so my eye is getting better. And there's books that I see now differently that I said 5 years ago, and then I used to see them different from 5 years before, let alone when I was a kid and stuff like that. And that's true with everything. But there are certain artists, like, to me, true masters. Their art is like the speed of light. It never changes. It's always crazy, just the fastest thing in the universe, right? And so people like Tim, is people who you look at their masterwork and you can look at it 40 years ago. I mean, it was not 40 years old, but 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 50 years from now, no matter what your progression is as an artist, it's always like speed of light. What am I saying? Speed of light.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like at that moment, it's like that.
Always, it's reached that speed limit of awesomeness that nothing can exceed. To me, that's how and to be perfectly honest, as I was saying earlier, there's certain high concepts that I've had for years, and they don't really jump to the front of the line until I find my way into it.
Yeah.
And the reason Palomino became the thing that I was doing, because Tim and I were talking about something for him to draw.
All right. Okay.
And so he was asking me, "Do you have a noir thing? We can do a book together and stuff." And so I was like, "Well, I do have something. I've had it for a long time. I don't know quite what it is yet, but it's called Palomino." But I pitched him the concept, the valley, the 80s, the noir, Los Angeles, and he loved it. Yeah. And so we were gonna originally do the book together, and then I said, "Well, listen, then I need to go write this thing now." And it took me about a year to find my way into it and to sort of write it and know what it was. And at that point, it became clear that he was not going to be able to do it. And plus, as I tend to do when I work on things for too long, I fall in love with them to where I gotta do this now.
You would take over Ted. That's what we call it over here. You would take over Ted.
Yeah, and yeah, so it became a project. I fully took on and stuff, and throughout, like, the first book, I was showing him pages, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm glad you're doing it because this is so you that is good." But so this is to say that it's been obviously difficult,
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a little bit of heads up. Tim Sale kind of first crossed my eyes on Heroes his artwork was used for one of the characters that could see the future.
Oh
And
yeah,
I've got a couple of prints in my bedroom
yeah.
of the man and the woman under the umbrella and the rain coming down, and one that stood on the top of the cityscape. I've got those two prints in my bedroom. Found out that it was Tim Sale who was the artist, and I was like, Tim Sale, never heard of this bloke before. And then I came across The Long Halloween, and from that point I was in love. I thought, and then a couple of years back he was doing a range of DC covers, variants. My comic book shop had it on order that I don't care what book it is.
Yeah.
If a Tim Sale cover comes in,
yeah,
that's the one you put away for me.
Yeah.
And so you know what, I share your admiration. I wish I'd known the bloke. I don't, obviously, but I share your admiration of his work, and I agree with you 100%. He is one of those creators who you can look at when it first did it, it was amazing. You can look back now and it's going to be amazing. You look back in 10 years' time and it's still going to be amazing. So
exactly.
I totally agree with you on that one. Cool.
And I'll add one more thing, which is that, as a person on the inside, his soul was just as beautiful. Yeah.
Cool. I wish I'd known him. I wish I do. I think talents like that. You know, I read one of his introductions to one of his books, and I was absolutely totally moved by it. So very good. We're going to take a quick break for one of our other shows before we move on and talk about your Kickstarter. What shall we? I tell you what, we haven't had this one for a while. See, you might recognize a couple of characters in this one, Stephan. This is Crisis in the Toyverse. You like that one? Very cinematic. So, Crisis in the Toyverse, check it out. Bobo drops videos around the latest toy figure releases. Yes, don't hate him. He takes the figures out of the boxes. All right. So, back to your fantastic Kickstarter. We mentioned earlier that you're already past your goal, which is fantastic. There are, just because you passed, you can still pledge. Feel free to pledge. There's the Kickstarter address at the bottom of the page. Dead easy. I know it's a long link, and I'm sorry, but all you got to do is go to Kickstarter and type in Palomino. It'll come up. You know, it's not hard. If you can use a search engine, you can use it, right? It's not hard to do.
I will just add one thing, just so people know, because there was one in 2024, Volume 1. So they should be looking for Volume 2 and 3. But have no fear, you can also order Volume 1 through this campaign. So you can start from the beginning, no problem.
And I would recommend you do, because, you know, you can't have too much of a good thing, right?
Yeah, because it's a complete story. That's right. Yeah. And it's a complete story. It's going to be a complete story in 4 volumes, so that you want the full story.
So this is the penalty. 2 and 3. All right, so here we go. $10 gets you the digital. I have to say, Stephan, I totally appreciate the digital idea. I love helping out Kickstarters. The thing that stops me more times than not is I can pay the $5 or the $10. That's fine, but then I have to pay $25 to get the book shipped to me. It becomes cost prohibitive. So having a digital, whilst I prefer having the actual comic in my hand, having a digital is a good call. So
especially for the overseas, shipping, which is expensive.
Exactly. 15 get you volumes 2 and 3 digital. So if you've already got number 1, there you go. So that's not a bad idea. Look, you've got $15 there, and you're getting 2 volumes for that. That's pretty good. Good value. And the volumes are they're about 90 pages long or something, is that right?
So all the 3 volumes together is like 350 pages.
There you go. Yeah, Divide that by 3, and that's how many it is. So for $20 or more, you get volumes 1 through 3 as PDFs. That would probably be the one that I would go for, to be honest, because I'm a bit of a completist. $20, you can start getting the physical trades. Do you get a choice on there? If you pledge 20, can you choose which one you want?
Yeah. So like, because we want people to have the option to, so like if you just want the first one because you're just finding the series now, then we have that. If you have the first one and you just want the second one to continue, we have that. If you want if you have 1 and you want 2 and 3, we have that. If you're just finding everything out right now, you want the 3. So we're trying to cover, just to make it as convenient for people to be able to, whatever is good for them,
Yeah. The fact, the range you've got is so impressive. Look at this idea: $60 or more. You get physicals for volume 1, 2, and 3. All right. Signed copies. All right. And you've got 24 backers on that already. And you think to yourself, that's a huge amount of number for a $60 laydown, isn't it? I'm really impressed. Really, really impressed. What also impresses me, some of the feedback you've been getting. You've dropped some names here. Let's have a look. You've got Jimmy Powell. I can never say it right. Jimmy Palmiotti.
Yeah.
Yes. Zeb Wells.
Yeah.
The one that I like the most. I don't know if you've got on your Kickstarter, is the one by Howard Shakin.
Oh yeah.
Who says, to be clear, it's been at least a decade since I've taken such an unalloyed pleasure in reading a comic book. And when you think how many different comic books Howard Shakin's written, drawn, created, and how long he's been in the industry, I think that's a huge. Yeah. I remember when he was on Star Wars for Marvel. So he did the first tie-in, didn't he? So what's it like getting so much great feedback from some of the...
It's really humbling, and it's really kind of amazing. I've had... I will just tell you this,
Please do.
How people say, don't meet your heroes because you're going to be disappointed and stuff like that. Well, I think that's bullshit. I've met so many and become, not just met, but I've become friends and worked with, and with so many of my heroes, whether in music or in animation or in comics, and never once have I been sort of disappointed, so it's but you never know. You can't take it for granted, because if there's something that, especially working in animation, because you work directly day to day, pencil to pencil with so many just amazing artists, you know what I mean? And that you're constantly reminded that, oh yeah, maybe you were the best in your hometown.
Yeah.
But here at Disney or at this and that, it's a deep bench here, you know what I mean? And so I've known for a long time to really, be very realistic in terms of the artistic giants that are out there, and so and so animation I'd done for a long time, and then I started doing comics maybe 10 something years ago, and I really did not know how the work was going to be received, by the fans, by the artists, and so having, this is how I met Tim, by the way. It's like he loved the first Silver, and he wrote a quote for Silver that was amazing, and we became friends from there in real life and stuff, so Bill Sienkiewicz, wrote something amazing for Silver. Tommy Lee Edwards, who's one of my dear friends, but also, like, to me, a monster artist that I still to this day don't understand. I don't understand how he does what he does, And so just having, and the list is long, right? So they can't. So those are the two validations that I really care about.
Cool.
One is the readers. And what I mean by the readers is like when I do comic book conventions, which we used to do so many of them before COVID, then everything got frozen, and now we're just starting to get back into them. But you know, the beauty of it is you travel a lot and you go to a lot of different places, a lot of different people and stuff like that, shake hundreds of thousands of hands, you know, over 10 years or whatever, and just having, and then you have a direct conversation with people about storytelling and what they like about your book or what meant to them, or, you know, and so people's, it's not opinion is the wrong word, it's like their perception, their relationship with it I means everything to me. And then on the other side is like the people who I put up there as artistic
well
there too, you know.
Well, let me just point out just one more thing as we come to a close. Stephan, I'm sure, right, that whilst you have your heroes of comic books and films that you look up to, might I just point out that to some people, you would be that hero. Yeah, they probably look up to you and think, "There's that guy that did that fantastic movie. There's the guy that created a whole universe of Despicable Me and bloody Minions. They're blaming you for the Minions." Yeah, so all these people, you know, so don't please don't sell yourself short, because we all can be we all can be that person to somebody. All right.
Absolutely.
So please, you know,
what matters is the difference you make in somebody's life. And it's just like no matter what the size of the contribution is, if it was big for that person and it played a role in their lives, then it's everything, you know. Cool. Some of the people I, you know, is people that may be very deep cut or whatever, but when I was a kid, they did something that you know, artistically opened the door for me, and now they're golden forever. You know, it's just like, it doesn't, you know.
And you honor them with your work. You honor them with your work. Your fantastic work.
Thank you so much,
Stephan. You've been fantastic. If you're interested in the book, and you should be, because I've looked at Volume 1 and Volume 2. It's absolutely fantastic. All right, the link is there. Palomino Volumes 2, 3, right in the Kickstarter. You will find it. If you want even more information, you can follow Stephan on Twitter at Stephan_Franck. Check the spelling, just saying. And Dark Planet Comics, there's their Twitter handle as well for all up-to-date news on the book. Perfect. Stephan, you've been absolutely fantastic. I've loved speaking to you. I would love to do this when we have more time, for sure. But for now, thank you so much. Don't forget to check out the UCPM for all your favorite shows, including Crisis in the Toyverse. You never know, there might be a Palomino music set coming from McFarlane Toys any minute now. Who'd have thunk it? That'd look great, wouldn't it? And of course, check out the rest of the catalogue for Outside the Panels for interviews with some of your favorite creators. I've been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes, and as always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.